there guys, it's Joey and welcome to this week's I Can't Witch Without, the series in which each week, hopefully it's not been each week recently with it being busy, we take a look at a particular item which I use regularly in my witchcraft practice, and this week we're going to be looking at selenite. Just the precursor to the video, the series is called I Can't Witch Without, but it's not to insinuate that you require any or all of the items featured in order to be a witch. It's just looking at an item each week, be it a herb, a flower, a resin, and so on and so forth. And this week, of course, we're looking at a crystal. So each time that we start one of these videos, the format is to give you two resources and read out the resources for the meanings. And we will be looking at the Crystal Bible and the Book of Stones. So the Crystal Bible is by Judy Hall, and the Book of Stones is Robert Simmons and Neisha Asian. And it's, I think it's the original one. I think there is a newer one with slightly more crystals in it. But when we can use the Book of Stones, it's a much preferred resource. It's much more in depth, but it's not always feasible. They don't have as many crystals as the three now crystal bibbles. So we have a look at the resources, read from the text, and it gives us a bouncing off place, and then I'm going to talk about my feelings on selenite and what I use selenite for and why I picked it and so on and so forth. So from the Crystal Bible: translucent selenite has a very fine vibration, bringing clarity of mind, opening the crown and higher crown chakras, and accessing angelic consciousness and higher guidance. Pure selenite is a link to the light body, helping to anchor it in the earthly vibration. Selenite is a calm stone that instills deep peace and is excellent for meditation or spiritual work. Telepathy is enhanced by each person holding a piece of pure vibration selenite. The purest translucent white selenite has an ethereal quality and is said to inhabit the space between light and matter. An ancient stone, it is nevertheless one of the most powerful crystals for the new vibration on Earth. It can be used to form a protective grid around the house, creating a safe and quiet space that does not allow outside influences in. Used internally in the corners of a home. A large piece of selenite can be placed in the house to ensure a peaceful atmosphere. Selenite wands can be used to detach entities from the aura or for preventing anything external from influencing the mind. It can be used to scrying, to see the future, or to ascertain what has happened in the past. Assisting judgment and insight. Mentally, it clears confusion and aids in seeing the deeper picture. A powerful disperser and stabilizer for erratic emotions. There are different colours of selenite. I'm just going to actually show you the pictures because I don't have any other than the pure white. So you can get this blue selenite here, and this green, and then this orangey colour, and a desert selenite. And they all have slightly different meanings, those different colours. But given that I only have the pure white selenite, and I've yet to see any of the other ones or be drawn to them, we'll be focusing on the white selenite, which is quite enough information for one video. So from the Book of Stones, keywords: spiritual activation, communion with higher self, spirit guides and angels, element of wind, chakras, third eye, crown, transpersonal and etheric, 8th through 14th above the head. So Robert Simmons meanings: selenite quickly opens and activates the third eye, crown chakra and the soul star chakra above the head. The intensity of energy delivered by selenite is greater than almost any stone for the upper chakras. A selenite wand pointed at the third eye sends energy that can feel like a gust of wind through the forehead and the top of the head. I'm actually going to repeat that because this is something that I actually do in my practice. So it's to hold a piece of selenite up to your third eye chakra is to give it a deep cleanse, a deep purify, and it can feel like a gust of wind going through the forehead. Selenite is a fast and effective cleanser of the auric field, and it can clear congested energies or negativity from one's physical and etheric body. Crystal healers are recommended to work with selenite wands, which are ideal for purifications and all type of energetic cleansing. When one attaches other stones to selenite wands, their energies are magnified many times over. When one combines several stones and attaches them to a selenite wand, the energies of the group are blended and amplified, emanating from the wand as a harmonious whole. So before we move on to that, you can often find that you will find like selenite wands, and they will have crystals tied on top, and it will either be that they've been tied in with wire, or perhaps particular types of clay and material that is bonded to the crystal. And the idea of those particular crystal wands, which are relatively popular, I've seen quite a lot of imagery for those kinds of wands. I've yet to see one in person, I don't think, and it wouldn't really be my bag anyway, baby. I can't really tell you why. Maybe I just don't like the I don't know. I couldn't tell you why I don't like them particularly. I'm not a big fan of wiring things to other things. I don't like wire with crystals. I'm a bit weird about it. I know there's a lot of wiring with crystals that goes on. I don't like wire around crystal jewellery, so I never purchase any of that for myself because I personally don't like it. I don't know what it is. I don't know whether it feels to me like it takes away from the crystals. I really don't, like the crystal cage necklaces, they're not my thing at all. I really don't like them. And I've never liked them. And it's a very weird personal quirk. It's only a personal thing, but there you go. So that's the wands. Selenite can lift one's awareness to higher planes of inner experience, making it possible for one to consciously meet one's spirit guides and or guardian angels. It facilitates the experience of receiving advice and information from one's guides in the form of interior movies. I think that's fairly self-explanatory. Receiving messages that it's like, this is how I ascribe it when anybody asks me like, oh, how do you mean that you get messages? And it's like, it's a little bit like seeing a memory. So if you were to recall a memory from your brain and you can remember what happened and what smells were there, and it's a recollection. So it's a little bit like that inner monologue, but then you have visions that aren't necessarily memories. So you get a very strong visual image of X, Y, and Z. I'm trying to think of an example that's not personal to me or someone else that's happened lately. I can't think of one. I suppose I could draw on my Healing Waters of Avalon meditation that I shared yesterday, and that's very much an inner visualization. Inner movie. In such experiences, one closes one's eyes in meditation whilst lying with a selenite wand resting on the heart chakra, pointing towards the head. If possible, another selenite wand should be placed on the floor or a pillow with the point just touching the crown chakra. As one moves into the meditative state, one is likely to see one or more guides, often in forms that symbolize something about the message. The guide or guides will take one through a story, which reveals the message symbolically. Words are seldom used, which makes the guide's job easier. One might say that when selenite opens the inner eye, the spiritual world enters. Oh, I like that. One may say that when selenite opens the inner eye, the spiritual world enters. Placing a selenite wand upon one's back along the length of the spine, one can achieve an energetic alignment of the vertebrae and the chakras. It's a lot of information in the Crystal Bible. Selenite is an excellent stone for building energy grids in one's home or outdoors. A group of 6 or more wands, at least 8 inches long, can be arranged in a miniature energy vortex. wonder if we created a little energy vortex right there without thinking about it. Which can be disassembled or reassembled as one wishes. Lying down in the centre of such a grid can bring about spiritual ascension. Selenite combines synergistically with almost any stone or combination of stones. It seems willing to blend and amplify whatever energies one wishes to work with. Therefore, it is an ideal material for making energy tools with other stones. As has already been mentioned, he talks a bit more about wands that we've already sort of covered. Right, let's move on to Neisha Asian. Neisha Asian, selenite is the key that unlocks the doorway to the etheric chakras. That's a beautiful way of looking at it. Selenite is a key which unlocks the etheric chakras. Once this doorway has been consciously opened, the higher self is free to establish itself by grounding the light body of an individual, empowering one's next step of evolution into the human/light beings. Selenite's frequency is resonant with the crown chakra, opening, clearing, and activating this energy center and transforming it to a gateway to the higher levels of self. Selenite wands direct this energy through the body and can be used as wands or prayer sticks which carry one's intentions through to the higher self and beyond. Spiritually, selenite's energy clears etheric blockages, allowing for a freer flow of energy through the chakras, particularly the higher chakras. Emotional. Stimulates the emotional body and compels one to move forward in one's life. It aids in overcoming stagnant energies and prevents one from succumbing to the illusions of security and comfort. Physical. Clears or bridges blockages and densities in the energy field, can stimulate physical healing as a result. Affirmation. I move into union with my higher self and my interior senses are awakened. Okie dokie. It's also often a lunar crystal, which... Is that not mentioned? I wonder why that's not mentioned. Let me check the Crystal Healing Bible, which is useless for most things, but we'll double check it. Oh gosh, are they not even in order? Are you not even in... Oh, this is why I hate this book. I don't use the Crystal Healing Bible because I think it's a nuisance. Selenite 68. Okay. Do not use selenite in water, by the way. It can damage it and breaks it down. But yeah. There you go. Ooh! Knock the camera. So obviously it can be associated with the goddess Selene and moon energy, which I'm pretty sure it's associated with Selene and it's not in any of these books. I'm pretty sure. I wonder if it's in any of the other crystal Bibles, because sometimes crystals appear more than once in the crystal Bibles. Failing that, we will move on to my feelings about the crystal. It's not into... It might not be. Some of the crystals appear more than once, I've noticed. No, it doesn't. Okay, fair enough. Right, so Selenite has been playing quite a role lately, and it's been playing a role in how I feel energetically, and I've noticed others feeling quite drawn to it energetically as well. And it's actually going to be one of the main crystals which incorporate my Yule altar and Yule work this year going forward. I, as you can see, have not yet done the Yule altar. That will be today or tomorrow, and then I will video it, leaving it till last minute because, you know, reasons. Because it's been busy, basically. But it feels very in tune with the energies around at this time of the year. Selenite is a highly accessible crystal, which is very energetically connective, even in the very early stages of learning about crystal magic and crystal healing and going forth about that. It's an easy crystal to feel the energies of. It works quite harmoniously with people, and people can get a real sense for it and on what it's about on a number of levels, even at the very beginner levels. You look at selenite and you get a feel for it. It has that light that passes through it. You can see particularly this one down here is kind of glowing where the light hits it, and it has a very gentle energy, a very peaceful energy. It's a strong purifier, a strong cleanser, and it really speaks about moon energy as far as I'm concerned. It has that illumination property. It can bring, it's very much about truth and peace all at once. The energy of this year's Yule is very interesting to me. It's completely different to any Yule energy that I personally have ever experienced. We're going to have a full moon this Christmas, and so having the moon-based selenite between Yule and the Christmas holiday, the 25th, makes a lot of sense to me, because it sort of builds on the energy from Yule into the full moon. And at Yule, we officially welcome back the light half of the year, you know, the increase of light, the welcoming back of the sun, and those sorts of energies. And it's frequently referred to as a solar based, at least, festival. However, this year there is some wackiness going on with the energy in the world. It's very warm for this time of year. We have flowers blooming outside. People have been reporting like daffodils and snowdrops and things as if it's spring. And yesterday and today I could have gone out without a coat, and it's nearly, you know, it's nearly Christmas time. It's nearly the end of December, and it's not cold at all. It's very still. It's very calm. The weather is doing very little. It's very, very quiet. And there's this very, very strange energy of this very, very slow, very almost laboured walk into the full moon. And it's still and quiet and very introspective. It's almost bizarre, in fact, at this time of the year. Normally, at this point in winter, there's a little bit of a harshness, a little bit of a coldness, obviously, both in the weather and in the energies. There's a starkness, usually, at this time of the year. Most things have, you know, lost all their greenery. All the plants have gone into hibernation, and the leaves have fallen. A lot of things have died off and are waiting dormant in terms for spring. And this year, there is a lot of greenery, there is a lot of fresh flowers blooming. I showed you on my Yule video, literally those roses were just blooming. And there is a lot of that sort of very, very softly energy going on. Like the winter hasn't really arrived. Like, where is the cadillac? Where is the crone? Where is the snow? I have no idea. And so I think that selenite kind of ties into this, working with this energy, this peaceful energy. It also really aligns with the idea of light half of the year and dark half of the year as we go forward. And frequently I like to work with selenite as a balancer crystal to a black crystal. And I work with, very frequently I use tourmaline, and I have a tourmaline here to sort of show you why. And you kind of see how, like, visually they align with, you know, the straight pieces and whatnot. And I frequently use selenite as a purifier and a balancer, but also a drawer of energy. So I will use a black crystal, a tourmaline, or an obsidian. And that's kind of your banishing, your cutting, your destroyer. And then the selenite is the drawer, the purifier that brings in a positive affirmation of pure light, pure energy into the space. Once the destroyer crystal, the grounder crystal, the black crystal has done its business. So it kind of fills the void with a lighter, fresher, softer energy, and it's why it's used in conjunction with other crystals for home cleansing, home purification, and home protection grids. Using black-white crystals in this sense is also a really positive and almost traditional, in my mind, thing to do around Yule and going forward, because Yule is not the new year for me, or, you know, January is not the new year for me. That happened in Samhain. So I understand people are thinking of beginnings, and there's a lot of that energy around in the populace en masse. However, that's not how I feel about it. I had all of that sort of affirmation in October, in the 31st of October, Samhain, Halloween, however you wish to see it. So that's the Witch's New Year. That is the time of the great beginning as far as I'm concerned. However, Yule and moving forward is that balance of light and dark, and we tip over and we consider what it means to be in the light half of the year versus the dark half of the year, and we reevaluate those parts of ourselves. So we evaluate our shadow selves at Yule, and people tend to put a negative spin on the idea of shadow self, and I don't agree with that whatsoever. I think that you need to embrace the shadow self as part of yourself, as a glorious, beautiful part of yourself, which has the hard lessons, but is still who you are. And it probably comes from following a dark goddess a lot of the time, that I have less fear and less reluctance in embracing the shadow self. I accept that certain emotions aren't as negative as perhaps they get portrayed in New Age realms, in New Age thinking. They're not, there is no such thing as a bad emotion, for example. It's just learning where it comes from. Is it necessary? Is your reaction and emotion appropriate, balanced? And so on and so forth. Selenite can help with this, with the healing and cleansing and purifying, and the process of accepting oneself at the dark half of the year as we push over into the light half of the year, because it's drawing all that positive energy into ourselves, helping ourselves really cleanse out our selves on a spiritual level, and helping us to attain a higher level understanding, because it cleanses out our third eye, it cleanses out our higher chakras, it lends itself to a level of communication with spirit guides, and it can lead us to an idea of who do I want to be and where do I go from here. It's really wonderful as a crystal to help with depression, which is not mentioned anywhere in these books, and I'm surprised it's not mentioned as a crystal that really should be in one's collection, particularly if one suffers on an emotional and mental level, because it has a very softly energy that really purifies, but without it being stark. And you know, it's a lot of the grounding slash purifying crystals can leave a little bit of an energetic void that needs a bit of a fill. It can really drain you to work with particular crystals once you really feel those energies and how they draw out of you, particularly the darker crystals. Say obsidian, for example. Obsidian is too much for a lot of people. Me personally, I don't mind it because it's a Morrigan crystal. I work with Morrigan energy, so compared to her energy, it's nothing, you know. But I understand that some people find it a little bit overwhelming, and they're not going to want to work with those particular crystals when it comes to healing work, such as healing through depression and other related illnesses, because it's going to leave too much. It's going to be too much of a draw, too much of a pull, too much energy loss all in one go. And selenite can be really wonderful for that gentle cleansing, that gentle walking over, and it also sort of fills one with a light energy, a gentle energy, a sense of awareness, but not overload of information. And I really think this ties into Yule, that sometimes even though we as witches have already had our new year, it's easy to get swept up into the massively publicised New Year's resolution type line of thinking. I don't particularly agree with it because I think it feeds into a binge and purge culture, which I don't agree with. But it's easy to feel those energies all around us because we're being bombarded with it in media and all around, and other people are bombarding us with it. And it can bring in self-doubt and questions of where am I going from here? And I really want to do this in 2016. I really want to become this. I really want to align myself with my higher self and seek out my destined path, or however you so see it going forward. And using selenite, particularly in a balance with a black crystal, can really help us with those sorts of questions, because you can use your black crystals to ground off any of the fear that comes with that sort of questioning, but selenite helps to activate our centers, our real centers, our third eye and our higher crown chakras. So that helps to sort of purify off all the nonsense of, oh, who am I going to be, and all these New Year's resolutions, and then bring in an acceptable level of energy to move us forward into 2016 and help us to heal ourselves, which is something that's really, really important. I talked about healing ourselves recently, and to really open ourselves and our awareness to who we should be being and who we should want to be, rather than who we've been told we ought to be, and so on and so forth. Taking a gentler hand to yourself with regards to healing and resolutions, I guess. In terms of it having quite a wind-based energy, I find it really interesting, the idea of considering a wind-based energy alongside a lunar energy, and how that would tie up quite nicely into a Yule-themed energy. Usually at this time of the year it's much, much colder and the wind is much more biting, and we're very, very aware of the wind in winter, perhaps more so than at any other season of the year. It can be a little bit more present, and I think it's very fair to say that this year we've had a lot of high winds, even if they're not particularly cold winds. So there's a lot of high winds going on in the energy of the world around us right now, and so that kind of draws on the things that are happening in the energy fields of the world around us when choosing a crystal for working with a Yule, alongside the fact that we're moving into full moon, of course. But it also is a real time for change. And that's in the energies of everything around us right now. Change is definitely in the air, and if you think about the correlation here between wind energy and then full lunar energy, it's a real time for manifestation of change. Full moon is used for your manifestation magic, your big wish magic, you're pushing things to happen. And wind magic tends to be about air, purification, the breath of change. And all of these things, of course, tie in beautifully to selenite, which is a breath crystal, an air of change, things of that nature. But also a crystal of manifestation, of seeing the change, feeling the change, and activating the change all in one go. It's a wonderful crystal for all of that sort of journey work. And it amplifies. So if you have a particular goal in mind, you can use selenite alongside other crystals in particular in order to amplify that goal. If you so desired to do some work for 2016 and you wish to have a grid and you wish to change your circumstances, selenite would make a beautiful addition to other crystals in order to amplify the things you wanted in 2016. Perhaps you don't want to do the whole resolution thing because it feels false to you. I think it feels very false. I don't like it. I don't like the binge and purge culture that promotes it. But if you want to really seek change at this time, I think it's a perfect time of year, energy-wise, this year particularly, to seek change, as long as you are not force-feeding change down your throat, and it's basically something that gets abandoned pretty quickly. But for example, let's see what we've got here I can use. If you wanted to change matters of the heart, then selenite goes beautifully with a rose quartz. If you wanted to change habits, if you wanted to study harder, things of that nature, or you wanted to really work on your clairvoyant style gifts, then perhaps working alongside an amethyst would work really well. If you wanted a little bit less chaos, a little bit more grounding, a little bit more stability going forward, then you could work with your black crystal, with your tourmaline. And I've already said how wonderfully tourmaline works alongside such crystals anyway. And where are you? If you wanted financial matters and you wanted a change in your financial circumstances and so on and so forth, it would work really beautifully with pyrite. And as we've said, you know, and read, selenite works really well with all crystals. It just has an amplification effect that works really, really well, and helps us to amplify ourselves as well, of course, to really enhance what's already there. It's not really necessarily about change in terms of drastic measures and New Year's resolutions and cutting into yourself in order to change. It's more about the amplification of what's already there, what's already possible, the wishes in your mind that are really feasible and are already part of you. You just have to really encourage yourself and push those energies along and figure out a plan. And this crystal can really work beautifully along with that. Side note, I don't have any polished selenite for you to see. The obelisk is kind of polished, and that's kind of as far polished as I'll go, because I'm much of a raw selenite fan, and I'm not keen on the polished stuff particularly, just as a side note. So I think we've covered everything. Just go over and check. We talked about the placing it on the third eye for a good cleanse. It's a really good thing to do, just a really good third eye cleanse. If you have a headache, it's worth trying as well. Sometimes like the blockages around the head can cause headaches and things, so if you have a headache, try selenite to the third eye, see how you go. Higher self, intuition, blockages. The last thing I will talk about actually is a rough I don't know what I'm going on about. A rough piece or raw piece of selenite is really wonderful for going around the entire body physically in terms of cleansing out the aura. It's really wonderful for working with the chakras, as we've read, and it's really wonderful as a raw piece. And I recently got a big piece up here for this very reason, to just go around your entire self with, to sit and sort of have a meditative healing cleansing of one's aura. So if you're feeling blocked, you're feeling sluggish, you're feeling icky and bleh, and you're not entirely sure where it's coming from, and you need to ground maybe. And I would, if you were going to do this, I would maybe ground with a separate crystal as well. So if it were me, I would sit on the bed or in a chair or wherever and have tourmaline by your feet, and do your breathing and grounding exercises. The simplest and most effective way is to be a tree. Visualize yourself with roots, and your roots going down into the ground, and that's your grounding. And then take a rough piece of selenite and, starting at the top of your head, just go around your entire self as if you were smudging, but with a crystal, and to cleanse out the energy around you and your aura. And it can be just a really deeply purifying and healing experience. It's wonderful for those sorts of things. Okay, so that's going to be it for this week's I Can't Witch Without Selenite. Many blessings.